We have, yeah,
Can't get any more trouble.
yeah, that's the one. That's our latest. Our latest improvement.
Are we recording?
To change in our-
Almost.
Elizabeth is coming.
No,
No, it's just we didn't have enough. Is it better right here?
Yeah, you wanna grab a chair?
Now we'll be looking right at her. Now it's on.
I tried to go just
It
the
only-
number of pages for the nice binary.
All right. So,
That's simple.
so Sally.
We got our budget, which we already knew. We got your budget.
Oh, you got
All right, good.
it. Good. All right, welcome everybody to the workshop between the Board of Selectmen and Big Island School. It is 4:11 at 6:04. We have the Board of Selectmen basically assigns one of the selectmen to be part of the budget, like we do every year, that's in charge of the whole thing of running it. So Mark is, once again, the selectmen, so I'll hand it off to him.
Thank you, Bo. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is the joint meeting between the select board and the school board. It will be workshop mode. Before we get going, I just want to make a general statement, which comes from the town side. I'll probably be recommending to the select board in the upcoming fiscal year to consider taking a look at the possible formation of a appointed budget committee and any benefits that could arise from looking at that. I know Long Island's been doing it. My experience so far has been, even though we've been able to undertake it and succeed fairly well at it, it's distracting, it's time consuming, and there could be a benefit to an appointed, let's just say 3 members for the fun of talking about it for a moment. So I just wanted to throw that out there so everybody can be thinking about that. Given that, having said that, I would like to offer the school the opportunity to open up the meeting. I'm gonna suggest I think we can all agree we should keep this meeting big picture. I think the school is going to tell us where they are with their budget, how they got there, what they think of it. The total amount, then we will do the same thing. Questions from people will be general based on, what you guys present, and then we will talk about possible cost savings at the end of the meeting, at the end of the budget discussion. How does that sound, everyone?
That's good.
Go right ahead when you're ready from the school side.
So as with all of our budgets, it's kind of, the goal was the same. The goal is to kind of look at the breakdown of the students per grade, look at what we need to make that work with our budget. Through our superintendent, we hear from the staff about what they expect they may need for either their own classroom instruction or outside courses, or whatever the case may be. That's brought back to the school committee, and armed with that and our prior budgets and our actual expenditures from previous years, we literally go line by line and try to keep all that in mind as we put it together. I'll start with kind of the bottom number, which appears to be up. So $94,000, a 7% increase. And I guess with that in mind, I just want to say that as you look through the budget, there's a couple of kind of areas of where most of that increase is made up of. The way the classroom breakdown looks like it will be for next year, we have decided to advertise for a pre-K teacher, which we have not had the last couple of years. Sorry, just this past year. And it would be a part-time position. It's obviously hard to know exactly what that teacher's experience will be. Teachers get paid based on, you know, the degree and the amount of years they've been teachers. So the way we budgeted for it was, you know, somewhere in the middle for 60% time, which is what we've done in the past with pre-K teacher. So that's something that we did not have in the budget this current year that we're in. Also, the tuition, kind of recall a few years ago, there was a big number of students in the Shabig school. Those students obviously have, you know, some of them, anyway, most of them have transitioned over to Yarmouth. So we are paying, you know, kind of an increase in tuition from where we were a few years ago. It's about a $15,000 increase over last year, roughly.
The tuition rate.
The tuition rate did increase also, but it's the number of students. I mean, yeah. But yeah, that's, you know, like everything, the rate goes up year to year.
So, are you looking, I mean, I'm just seeing that you guys have a different format of the budget, or is that available to us too, or, I mean?
This is the budget that we use, but we also are using your format as well.
Yeah, and I can reference trio lines.
Yeah, that would be good.
Those will match
I guess
up.
that's a different format than what we have to.
It's the same
This is-
format, it's just in Excel. I just sent it to her in Excel and she put the numbers in and then she sent it back to me and I put it in Trio.
Okay, so yeah, the line, whatever it is, the trio numbers would be good, just so like, where does the pre-K teacher show up, what line?
8,300.
Okay,
8,300 is the pre-K position. And the tuition, middle school and high school, that's regular education tuition, 8318 and 8319. So, and then obviously in the 8,300 section, that's our regular instruction, and which includes elementary, the school here, and the tuition. You know, within that you have the other teachers, you know, their contracts, and you know, the teachers, like I said earlier, they get paid based on years of experience. So the teachers get a kind of an automatic step increase. So that's built into that. But you can see of that 90-something thousand dollars that I said was the total increase of the budget, 94,000, 77,000 of that is in regular instruction for the elementary school and tuition. So that's kind of the brunt of it. The rest of it, I think, I mean, we can go down through it as much as you like, but I think that it's mostly in line with where we've been before. You know, like I said, we budget for the students' needs and based on what the teachers and staff say what we need and what the superintendent recommends for, you know, for contracts for outside, you know, like the lawn care and the maintenance of, you know, our equipment and all that.
so is this accurate that it's an increase of 8.7%?
7.
That's what I thought you said.
7.7.
On our printout, unless I'm reading it wrong, it says 8.7%.
That is accurate according to what the numbers that were provided that were put into Trio.
Something's not right between our budget and yours, perhaps. And then just so I just say that again, so the increase is 94,000, and that's about a 7% increase. And 77% of that is salaries related to pre-K. Is that what you said?
77,000.
Oh, 77, well, okay.
Yeah.
Probably about the same.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Is salary increases to add a pre-K teacher and then the regular salary increases, is that right?
Well, and tuition increase.
And tuition, so it's basically instructional related.
Yeah.
increases. Okay.
General questions from anyone?
And feel free, any other school committee members, to chime in on your thoughts on it.
Jeff, is the cost per student still dictated by a state level with the Army?
For tuition?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's based on the maximum allowable tuition rate. And then on top of that, with the renovations that Yarmouth made to their middle school and high school,
Yeah.
we pay a certain amount, a ratio basically of how many students we have in that school compared to the total amount of students in that school. We pay a percentage of what they
Yeah.
charge to rent, what it costs them to renovate that in particular
And
school.
I'm sorry to ask this question. I probably should know the answer. Have we retired the debt with MSAD 51 for what he was just talking about?
We have, in this budget, there's 134,000 that we'll have to pay. And then, so this budget we're working on has that number. The next budget we do will have a, roughly similar number. And the budget after that will be very small. It'll be, a few $1,000s to clean it up. So a couple more
Sorry,
years,
I just couldn't remember the timeline.
a couple more years.
So that would be 2026 or something.
27.
27, yeah.
It's the same year the secession debt falls off too.
20, no, I don't think that, I think it's 25, 26.
Okay,
Yeah, it was the last payment. Yeah.
great.
Questions from anyone? The school.
I guess in the format we have, it's a little hard to tell, how the different categories, there's no summaries by category, right? So like special ed, so just going through the basic categories. Special ed, has that changed? And are we getting any reimbursement on special ed? So where does that stand?
So special ed is actually going down about a little over $16,000. We were able to put in a more accurate number for tuition. And we were also able to eliminate special ed travel.
Doesn't that show up somewhere else, the special ed travel, or it's gone?
It's gone.
Cool.
And revenue.
And Judy Gove, who is the special ed director, myself, and Jody have filled out the paperwork for the state to be reimbursed some of that tuition.
And what, do you know how much we get?
No, I don't. As soon as I because any of that money come in, I don't believe so yet, because we just finished the paperwork probably about a month ago.
And how about, can I keep going? Facilities and maintenance, how does that look?
We are up a little over $10,000. We increased due to water testing, plumbing bill, and then the general maintenance of the generator and pest control alarm system, filters for the water system, and keep in the back of our mind that we have an old furnace in the building. So we increased for maintenance and.
And then transportation and buses, how's that look?
That is up a little over $8,000, and that the increase is in repairs and fuel.
And what's the status of the bus long-term? I don't know I have no idea is it in need of replacement in the next 5 years or?
Probably just over 5 years. It's such high tech, bus these days. And so there's all these different sensor lights. And so if there's a, pebble in the hubcap, a sensor light goes on. And Kevin's very good at calling right down to Cressy's, and he reads it out to them, and they'll say, this is what it is. In the event that Kevin can do it, or it's done right here on the island, but I think it was in December that we had to barge it off. And then right as he was driving it back up to be barged back, lights went on and he had to turn around and bring it back. So that was costly.
We started a transportation vehicle reserve account a year or two ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are definitely keeping that in mind.
Yeah, and last time I think we were able to buy it with the reserve funds, so we didn't have to borrow. And there may be some federal funding, I imagine, but then the other thing, and I don't think you've mentioned it, sort of what's the enrollment in the different grade levels for next year?
We're pretty status quo at our,
Which is 9, is that, what
we're
is?
we're at 10 right now, and next year we're looking, hopefully we'll have 11 or 12. And then,
But I mean, based on the non-hopeful, just the, kids that are moving forward, what is the, so if
we have 1 moving out, and then we hope to have 4 coming in.
but do we have them in? I mean, I guess I wanted to.
Well,
It depends on the pre-K teacher, so if we can hire a
yeah.
pre-K teacher, we'll have a pre-K program. If we don't hire one, we won't have
Okay,
one.
that makes sense. And then,
6 in the middle school and 15 at the high school.
Yeah, 6 and 15, yeah.
and would you expect that you'd need a pre-K teacher the following year?
Yes,
Where's that reserve account for the bus? Or for education?
it's in your Machias account.
It doesn't show.
Oh, right.
50,000 right now.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a good time to bring it up. We're hoping that we can push the group to work on getting the audit done as soon as possible, because we suspect that we'll have, we can't designate funds really until it's audited. And we have 2 outstanding years of that need to be audited. So, I think those reserve accounts could potentially be pretty healthy, or we could put money back to the taxpayer, whatever the case may be. But without the audit, we're kind of in limbo.
So what have you been doing with your,
So-
leftover funds at the end of the year?
So last time that we had leftover funds, we put them back into the reserve accounts. This last year, the unaudited account, Marjorie looked through it and came up with what her best guess, which was pretty much right around where I projected that we were at. And we agreed that we would put 150 towards this current budget.
Right.
But that was unaudited. And so we're sitting with our fingers crossed, hoping that we were both right. But I have the utmost faith in Marjorie that we were correct. I wouldn't dare put anything forward from last year's budget because we were very, very tight.
So when you say last year's budget, do you mean this fiscal year?
Previous year, the
So was
22.
there may have been, if there was a little money left, where does it go?
Previous year fiscal 22 is the money that was taken and put into to offset the current fiscal year 23 budget.
No.
No, it's 21.
Yeah, it was prior, yeah.
Because we didn't know what we would have had in
It was
22, because 22, we were skinny, and we had to take, the school committee took money out of the reserve account from special ed to balance out the general ed account.
So it's your sense you were flat, you were 0 balance at the end of the year about it.
Yes.
Go right ahead. Not related specifically to the budget, but relative to your concerns about the heat plant long-term. At the Maine Island Coalition's meeting a week and a half ago, representatives from 3 of the 4 congressional offices for Maine spoke almost competitively about how much they wanted us to call them and ask for money. And it's that same old story we always hear about earmarks, but we're learning a little bit more about how you have to work with that. And basically, you need to work with the appropriate agency within the state of Maine to begin developing a plan and then expect a project to be 2-3 years in the making. But they offered help. They said, we know this is not something you guys have expertise in. We do, and we can help you do that. Just call our office, tell us what you want to do, and we can try to help. Efficiency Maine also has grants right now for heating systems for schools. But between the 2, if we start talking about it now, I would hope there's a chance we can get some money to help pay for making that heating and hopefully cooling more intelligent than it is now.
What was the first agency you said? Maine
Efficiency Maine,
and the other?
the other was just the four, the
Maine.
local representatives from the 2 senators and 2 representatives from Maine.
But it was
Wait,
Maine
so the
Islands
Maine
Coalition.
Oh, no, Maine Islands Coalition is a Island Institute sponsored
Okay.
forum for the islands to talk to each other. But at that meeting, the 4 representatives from Golden, Pingree,
Yeah.
Collins, you know, they were literally walking all over each other and say, well, I can offer you even more help than they can. There's a lot of money floating around right now. Who knows how long that's gonna last, but good time to try to do good things with it if we can.
And there is a school-specific efficiency main fund, which would cover the heating plan. And even, I think I checked at one point, it's, you know, an old furnace is not out of question, it just has to be efficient. They probably give more money for other types of, you know, I don't know how the metric works, but that's been around, it's been open for quite a while, so I still think they probably have money. But
It's still on the website. so.
Yeah, we looked at that a few years back.
I think it's new this year, so, or within the past year, so it might be a different program. It was like the electric bus program we didn't qualify for. So just before we leave the audit though, so can I understand, so basically, at the end of this year, you might have some surplus funds to expect, you know, have a sense.
I haven't run an estimate yet.
So, and then without the audit, we're not qualifying for state subsidy funds, is that, how does that work? Because I don't really understand.
We keep getting notices from the Maine Department of Education and the Finance Department, and they just keep sending us letters that say that we're delinquent and that we need to send in our audited budget. And we asked for extensions, and we're past any extension that they would give us, and so they're now just kind of leaving us alone, but they want the audited.
Are we still getting the minimum state subsidies that we get?
I think it was last year, we received some of it, not all of it, and then this year, we're pretty much on target getting the checks. We also started into the food service program, and so we've been getting checks for the food service programs as well this year.
Oh, that's right, because it's free lunch for everybody.
Yeah, free lunch for everybody, so we had to sign up for that.
But specifically, is the fact that our audits are behind, is that costing us any money?
Not at this time.
But it could if, yeah. So what's the update on the audit? Said you had heard from them?
Yeah, they sent me the last draft with a couple more things that they needed and I sent it back. And then this week, it was yesterday, I got an email saying to sign a piece of paper saying that the draft, you know, is complete based on what you provided. And then they'll, I think, just take the watermark off and then send us the final one. So it should be coming soon, so.
Great.
Do you guys still have the tuition reserve and the special ed reserve? Do you still put money in? Is it like $10,000 every?
Yeah, so the statement you all get from a tri-state has our reserves listed on there. I don't have those numbers offhand, but they're all healthy.
But you put 10,000 or try to put 10,000 in each year? Is that still?
Yeah, we had,
2 years
did.
ago, we didn't do anything last year because
Last year, 25 went into the transportation, because the surplus money, you voted to have 25 of it go into the transportation reserve, which, so that account is at 50,231. The school tuition reserve is at 83,270, and then the special ed is at 142,321.
And we have a capital reserve.
February 1.
playground.
School capital is 75,902.
And then at the bottom is the playground one as well.
Oh, yeah, the playground one. It is
For 5,000.
So
$7,200.
are those accounts sounding pretty healthy? Are you not putting in money this year or you are putting in money?
We won't know until we get the audit back.
We're not budgeting to put anything in there right now.
But we did like make the decision, because there's, always like, there might be a student moving that will be going over. We did decide, instead of estimating, adding that into our budget, that we would use the tuition reserve if
If
that
happens.
student that happened.
And if 10 students move in,
And then other than the heating system, is there any other long-term capital things that you guys are looking at in that?
The stove and the freezer. We've had close to $4,000, or $3,000 work on the freezer.
The big one?
The big one in the back. And then the stove, still has the spatula in the side of it to keep it moving.
The convection oven?
no,
Open burner, yeah.
that machine doesn't know.
But everything's working at the present.
And are you expecting all the staff to be back next year? Do you know?
At this current time, yes.
We're fortunate, we have a program that we draw from Rural Education Advancement Program. It's a grant program that we've been able to purchase all new laptops for just the upper grades, or just the upper grades, right? And we've had some internet issues at school, hoping to get that fixed, and that should be paid through the REAP grant. So yeah, that's been a huge help and a benefit to the taxpayers out here.
And aren't you using that for after-school programs?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're responsible for 2 days a week. We do one day is movement. Penny takes them out and keeps them moving. And then on Wednesday, they flip-flop. 1 week it's, I think it's like yoga and art. And then on the next day, on the following Wednesday, it's 3D printing. And the kids all love the 3D printing. So we're very fortunate that that couple out in California gave us that printer, that 3D printer.
So this may not be a direct budget question, but it has implications. I know that the physical building has had some paint chipping issues on the inside, but how has the satisfaction been overall, in your opinions, on the way the building ended up getting remodeled? How has it been functionally? And have you noticed any energy savings possibly?
Not knowing the building before, only seeing pictures. I think it's a beautiful school. I think that it's, looking at what we pay for oil and whatnot, I think it runs pretty efficient. We have had trouble with the furnace a little bit, but
Yeah.
they come right over. Mr. Rich comes right over and gets it fixed. We have the circulation system up top that keeps fresh air pumping in, and I think the windows are very, very tight and help with the energy efficiency.
So overall, it's been pretty good.
I think it's a beautiful building.
Good. Glad to hear that.
It's hard to compare numbers because we were in the building for 6 months and then COVID hit. So our numbers are
Yeah.
skewed there. So last year we had a full year and this year we had a full year. So that would give us a little more
Yeah.
data to compare to
But
previous year.
there are, some complicated systems now in that building with the circulation system and the kitchen stuff. So I was just wondering if there's been any operational problems with any of it, and have you been able to get maintenance done on it, or?
For the most part,
Yeah, which is always a trick over here.
yes, it is.
Yeah. Budget questions?
I have a couple. So when I look at a budget, I look at the high percentage rates, the big change numbers. I'm looking specifically at 8401, which is course reimbursements. Went up 520%. Just curious what that is.
That's teachers taking classes, and we renegotiate, the board renegotiated the teacher budget last year, contract, and that was part of the contract, was that in the past, the contract said that the teachers had to let them know a year in advance or 6 months in advance if they were going to take a class, and sometimes they don't know that. And so teachers negotiated and the board agreed that the money would be in there if they wanted to take a class. So it's in there.
The other question was other professional services, 8403. Yeah, I don't know why it's 166, or why did you guys put it at 1,500 last year, I guess.
Can you repeat the trio number?
8403.
Yeah, it was 4,000, then in 23,
Yeah.
it was budgeted as 1,500, and year to date, it says 4,000. It's like a mistake.
Just curious.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake.
Yeah,
It's 8403 is the library line. It's been 4,000 for the last 3 years.
so we have the budget for last year was 1,500, that's not
Yeah.
right.
No,
That's not accurate.
Oh, to use the library?
Make sure you
Yeah.
look in.
yeah,
24.
Page 24, line item 8403. Third one down. I'm just curious. Just saw the numbers, I'm like. The next one is other contracted service, 8805. Went from 500 last year to 1,500 in food services. That helps you guys.
oh no, sorry. 8505.
88, yeah. It went from 500 to 1,500.
Yes. Yeah.
That's to take care of any of the machines in the kitchen, the
Okay.
stove, the fridge, the freezer.
All right. Like I said, I just
Yeah,
looked for
no.
that,
Those are good questions.
the high one. So, I heard you guys say we have 9 currently in the Big Island School. Do you
10.
guys, or 10, sorry. Do you guys know how many we have in the middle school and the high school?
6 in the, oh, right now?
I'm
No.
not gonna hold you to
It's
it.
good.
I'm
I
just
know
curious.
I know that there's 15 in the high school.
Yeah.
And I want to say that, there's 9 in the middle school right now.
Nice, all right. A couple other, that's not related to the budget, but might be, the PFAS. Where's the school stand on that? I just know that, you know, a lot of your meetings aren't broadcast
Yeah.
or whatever, so I've had people ask me about that. So, and I don't know what to
Yeah,
answer.
sure, yeah. Well, I mean,
So.
thanks to Carol. It's the way to open this
If I
conversation.
say
I
anything.
didn't create it.
So Carol didn't create it, but she was very instrumental in helping us mediate it. And she does check our water very regularly. And she came up with a plan to remediate it, which normally they had grants that we could apply for and jump through major hoops and many of them. Because we don't use a lot of water, you know, it's basically just the water fountain. We were able to go with a residential treatment that was put in August or September. Yeah, and so we spent up till probably about Christmas time working on adjustments to it to make sure that it was
Generous.
to work out all the kinks and bugs. And since then, our water tests have come
Come
back
back negative.
negative. So we're pleased with the care that Carol has given us.
It might be worthwhile to explain the issue that came up at the board meeting that I attended. on the irrigation system. Oh, I just think the board should.
Yeah, so we were approached by the rec center who also, similar water test results. They had elevated levels of PFAS and are looking into a treatment system. They use more water in part because it's their well that feeds the irrigation system for the ball field. Although the ball field is school property, the rec center uses it for, summer camps, and people are at the rec center during the summer when they're mostly not in school. So they are in charge of the control module for the irrigation system and all that. They approached the school about having it switched so that the plumbing ran from the school's well, because they were concerned about the cost of the PFAS treatment system and the long-term maintenance of the filtration system. Yeah, so we said because of the reasons why the irrigation system was originally installed on the well, which there were numerous reasons why the committees at the time decided to do that. We did not support moving that irrigation system to run off the school as well. Does that cover what you were looking for
Yeah,
there?
I mean, so I think you should be aware, just because we subsidize the rec center, that they were concerned about the cost and asked the school to take over the irrigation system, but there's a lot of reasons why that's not a good idea, even, hydraulically or whatever. But the other thing is, just a quick update, the state came out with 1,000 grant programs, just like everybody else here, and I think we can qualify for one to creatively evaluate the problem of both sites and test some of the residential wells and test the soil to try to at least determine what the source is. Because that, if it was something like the soil, there might be something we could do to ultimately, fully remediate it so we don't have to keep treating. And and just while you're here, so I don't forget to tell you, is the state well inspector guy is coming over next Tuesday. So I think you guys will be not here, right? So that's,
All right. Yeah, what's going on with the fire alarm at the school?
with what?
The
The
fire
fire
alarm.
alarm.
So sometime in December, it shorted out. And so it sends a signal within the school. And so if there's a fire in the school while we're there, everybody will get out because they'll hear it. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't go from the school to the call center. And Friday, that will get fixed. Cunningham is coming out and we'll complete that project on Friday.
All right. That's it. That's all I had.
Pam, go right ahead.
Just a general question about the maintenance of the building and what the budget is for that this year.
Yep. So those budget lines, this current year, it was just shy of 60,000, and next year it'll be just shy of 70,000. We added 10,000 in there to take care of the water testing and the extra filtration systems that we need to have for the
What else is in there?
There's, the custodian salaries in there. The rent that we pay for the rec center is in there. It's $8,000. Oil, electricity, insurance. That's kind of all under the umbrella of our facilities and maintenance section.
Anything else for the school?
To circle back to the questions that Jeff had asked Vika to put on the email that Vika sent out to us.
Are you gonna go with those ones later, Mark, or
Was that later?
is that what you said, or I don't care when, but.
Well, I thought we would go to the town side very quickly,
Okay, gotcha.
if you don't mind.
No, do it.
I'm just gonna give a quick synopsis of where we stand at the moment. So last year, the total cost to the taxpayer for both school and town was $3,729,111.61. The school portion of that was $1,210,715. The town side was 2.5 million.
Can you give me can you say the schools portion again?
School portion last year was, well, I took it from your number, $1,210,715. Is that correct?
No,
It's not?
the approved budget for last year was $1,219,791.
Okay, well, I was off by 10, almost 10,000, excuse me for that. My point is, here's my big picture point so far on the town side. I went through every sheet. Vika, thank you for this updated budget so far. Initial 2024 on the department side, we are at $2,109,015 for the operational departmental budget. We are, for our capital budget, we are at $436,000, which is down from last year by $104,600. My point is, right now, we're at $2,545,015 initial proposed so far from the town side. So we're pretty well on track. I can only speak for myself philosophically for how I've approached the budget. I've always approached the budget to try and at least match last year and look for savings and efficiencies wherever we can throughout any department. Vika and town administrators before her have done a good job meeting with departments and bringing recommendations of needs and upgrades for departmental operational stuff, as well as capital needs. So right now, the total is up 3.56% if it stays where it is. I think there's a couple of wild cards that Vika may, and the board, select board may agree with me on. I think the wild cards may be the ability to consider using any undesignated fund balance amount, which we have done historically. If we don't lower our proposed initial ask for spending to town meeting, sometimes we will have a warrant article that will specifically state to take, I'll just use an example, $80,000 out of the undesignated fund balance to help with tax increase.
Offset the tax.
Last year, I think we did 100,000, didn't we?
Trying to remember, 125. I believe.
120, yeah, it's over 100,000. The other wild card, and I don't budget thinking about this myself too much, but there's a total value that the assessor, Jackie, will end up putting on our town. So every year, she's required to put a total valuation number on the town of Shebig, and that valuation number can go up, which can be beneficial to us. She took the mill rate last year from $16.40 and put it down to $12.50, I believe. She did a pretty good job with that, in my opinion, and so I think that helped. So that's where we are at the moment. You're welcome to ask any specific questions of any of us. The select board is, and Vika, please chime in if you'd like to say something specific about our budget. if you'd like to ask about any department capital projects, go ahead. One of my points about possibly recommending that we think about a budget committee in this town is the capital plan. I think Herb would agree with me where he's the one that created it. And Vika's done a good job bringing it back to our radar. I think it's probably time to get more focused on a real capital plan document, which focuses not only on capital projects, but its relationship to the long range,
Expenditure plan. strategic plan.
comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Sorry, lost my train of thought there. So I think we're gonna be focusing on that more. I think we can answer most any questions that you might have on capital. There's another wild card laying out there. This coming Thursday, I'm gonna try to join Vika in discussions with the Army Corps of Engineers about finishing up the dredging project down at Stone Wharf. And we don't quite know where those numbers could end up. So that could have an effect. That's all that we can say at this point. Go ahead.
Can I just ask about the COLA increase? We haven't fully decided as a board what we're gonna go with. Our suggestion was 5%, which was given by Vika. She did a whole lot of research and pretty much used an average from the state. So we currently have 5% in our budget. Unless it changed and I didn't see it.
Still in that.
So we haven't completely decided. That's why we were gonna talk briefly about it tonight and see. So I just didn't know what percentage you guys, or do you have a COLA increase?
Yeah, so we have built into this first draft budget a 4% COLA increase. We were unsure where the select board was gonna go, unsure what the rest of Southern Maine was doing, for example. You know, this town's fortunate, has great employees, the school has great employees, cost of living, as we all know, has just gone crazy. I would have no problem asking the board at our next meeting to go up to 5%. And that may be in the next draft. But if you guys are at 5%, I think that's great.
Yeah, we've bounced around numbers and we haven't really sat down and, you know,
I wouldn't say we're at 5%.
so we beat it up a few times.
You don't think we are?
The board has not made a decision. That was the proposed number.
Just kind of piggybacking on what Jeff said there, the staff at the school that are under contract have a built-in staff, and theirs is just over 5.1% increase. So that's kind of where.
And is that negotiated on a 3-year? Is that a 3-year?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that's separate from COLA.
Correct. Correct.
COLA's for hourly employees.
Go right ahead, Karen.
Yeah, and I didn't ask, so your benefits, how does that look?
3%.
Okay.
And then back to the teacher salaries. At one point in time, those increases were intended to bring the teachers up to a level that they were supposed to have been at, but we weren't keeping pace for a while there. Is that-
We are.
Are we still?
No, we're at pace.
We're at pace, okay.
And Mark, I want to be sure I just, sorry. When you said at the very end, and maybe I'm just not with it, but that we were up 3-point-something%, are you saying overall our municipal budget is up that amount?
That's what it's showing on this last page, page 39. Is that accurate in your opinion with this trio printout? Because that
That's
3
with all the
point,
information that I put in from town and school, that's what it says.
that 3.56% would be proposed increase with both entities.
Combined.
Correct,
Combined.
yeah, at the town meeting.
But on this, just to be aware that the calculated increase for the schools something, and Ann and Jeff are saying it's 7, so we do have a discrepancy. It's significant because it's $1 million+ budget, so we should find out what that is.
So it wouldn't be just an Excel to Trio
I
non-relationship.
took all the information from the Excel document that they're looking at and put it in here.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, with the numbers that are in Trio for fiscal year 2023 budget, I can't change that. Those are the numbers that were adopted once we moved from one budget in the system to the next. I can't go back into a previous year and adjust any numbers. And so if there is a discrepancy between the numbers that Ann has in her sheet and what is in the fiscal year 23 on Trio, we can't make those adjustments. Which is why, you know, the pages that you see, pages, you know, 27 through 32 or whatever, we're trying to move in the direction where the same document is used for town and schools. So it eliminates those kind of discrepancies in the future. Because I think that's been something with Ann and I working together. You know, we realized that using different documents for the school and for the town and then combining them in one system has created opportunities for mistakes that we're trying to eliminate in the future.
Yeah, well, I do think, well, we can talk about there. It looks like there might be a few things that could be, like that library fee doesn't look right for 20.
I mean, ultimately, before we take this to town, we have to decide, we have to be able to say it's 3.56%
Right.
or 3.9%.
Right.
We can't just say that there's some difference that we don't know about. We've got to figure out what the difference is and make the two agree.
I can help with that. Great. And Mark, when you say that's the increase, then we could ask Jackie what her estimate is for our assessment change in 20 for this next fiscal year and get a sense of what that might do to the mill rate.
I think so. And Vika, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think back to Ann's point of an unaudited undesignated fund balance. Do we expect to get Marjorie's opinion again, maybe on an estimated amount if we decide we need to ask the voters to consider an estimated amount out of that undesignated fund balance?
Yes, I hope to do that before the next fiscal year because we still have in the current 2023 year budget funds to utilize those services with her. So I'm going to use them as long as I can, as long as we're in this budget. And we will have 21 audit complete by town meeting, but at this rate, 22 isn't going to be done by town meeting. So we'll have her help with the calculations the same as she did last year. And she was on a very conservative.
Right.
So I think there's, you know, I trust that she was doing the right thing. So.
Right, and we got one more shot at our budget, I believe, before. I think the next look at our budget is the final one. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Looking at the calendar, on the Board of Selectmen's meeting for May 17th, that's when the budget is being approved. So that's when the town,
I got it as May 3rd.
May 3rd is going to be the last draft that you'll get and you'll work on, and then that should be the final draft. And then that week, at the end of that week, the 4th and the 5th, I'll send it to the attorney. She'll work on it the following week, and then it gets approved like the town warrant in that
The
format
warrants get
at the
approved.
17th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have, 2 weeks.
My only point to what I said, my main point to what I said is we may come out of that discussion with Army Corps with a better idea. I don't know. But if we do, it's going to have some weight on the capital budget, most likely. And we're going to need to make a decision on where that budget is going to be sitting, especially the capital. And the capital budget on the town side is an easy one to say, oh, well, haul that 50,000 out and do that in 2 years, and we'll take this 100,000 and shift it over there and, or not do it at all. You can kick the can down the road with a lot of things if you want to. But overall, we've done a decent job for not having a budget committee, and the roads are nearly done. That's the good news. We are planning for stuff like that still. So anyway, my only point is we're going to have to be prepared for that meeting. So is that in conjunction with a business meeting? I didn't look at you.
Yes, both of them, actually.
So can I make a request to
I believe so.
consider possibly doing the budget earlier instead of later like last time? I thought we were all exhausted.
Yeah.
It's just a suggestion. Go ahead now, big the agenda. Go ahead, Bob, sorry.
Two things. One, based on the last meeting, I would like to ask that we stop combining.
Yeah.
Let's have a separate budget meeting and just talk about budget. If we have to add another meeting, we have to add 2 more meetings. I would rather do that and do a good job with the
Yeah.
budget than kill ourselves. And
So we may want to consider that, maybe we see how that discussion goes with Army Corps, and then we make a recommendation to the select board based on that. That'll have some weight at least, and it might be something good to consider to just have a separate budget meeting altogether.
Yeah, I think they're more productive anyway.
Okay.
so second, or going back to, I'm new at this, undesignated funds. That's just basically money we didn't spend out of individual accounts. And what we moved into the current year's fiscal budget from 2021 was, because it was unaudited, was based on a conservative estimate. We're soon going to have the audit from 2021. So if there's a difference between that conservative estimate and reality and the final number, does that excess by definition become part of the undesignated fund balance that we'll be estimating from 2022 to 2020 or 2023 to 2024?
I think technically it's an adjustment to 2021, right?
So I think the money that we all put forward,
Mhm.
for us, it was the board, it was 150. It's gonna, hopefully it'll come back and you'll see it in the audit,
Right.
but consider it gone because it was used.
What if the audit says that it should have been 180?
Then we have 30.
And is that money then available in this upcoming year's movement of undesignated funds is my question.
My understanding is no, but I don't think I can answer that clearly.
Maybe we can ask Marjorie that question.
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
Yeah.
Because
I-
it's all related to being behind on these audits.
Yeah.
We're estimating, we're trying to be conservative, but every time, on average, every time you estimate conservative, if you did a good job, there's something left there. So,
Yeah.
Pico, do you know what we have currently in our undesignated funds?
Well, it doesn't really work like that.
That's what we haven't spent, but we're still spending, so.
Yeah.
I thought it all went into a pot and we can spend up to like 12%.
So last
of what
town
we have.
meeting of Marjorie was 125,000 from the previous year that went into to offset the taxes.
Mhm.
But because we haven't done the audit for fiscal year 2022, we don't know what that number is for that year. And because we're still in fiscal year 2023, we won't know that until that year is over. Does that make sense? There isn't like one pot where it kind of is, all of it is type of a thing.
It seems likely that there might be a little extra money from 2021 and 2022. And so probably I think it theoretically gets applied to that year, but then maybe we can transfer it forward into sort of the savings undesignated. That's sort of my guess, but it would be a good question for Marjorie. And this year, right now, you're not proposing to add any undesignated funds because you don't know what they'll be.
I think our actuals on 2022 were too skinny to do anything.
Right. And And can I just have one more question, just so I'm kind of trying to get at the high altitude here. So for this upcoming year, did you have, so you're not applying any undesignated funds because we don't really know. And then for the capital budget, are you contributing to your capital budget? Not at all?
Not at this juncture.
But if there was a balance in the undesignated funds, even going back, you might apply it to capital? Is that what you would do?
We might, our reserves are really healthy. I don't know how much,
Okay.
I mean, we may want to apply some to the, not necessarily capital, but probably if anything more to the transportation reserves, but
Yeah.
that would be, speaking for me, but
Isn't that in the capital reserve though? Yeah, okay.
well, it's a separate reserve account.
Well, that's what I
But
meant,
yeah.
any of your
Any of the
reserve
reserves.
accounts.
Yeah.
Where are we at, folks? Are we almost done with budget numbers, ready to talk about possible ways of saving money, or do we have other questions about money?
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I just really want to commend you all for the amount that you have going on, budget related for one thing, but also, facilities discussions, stone pier discussion, all these big ticket items that you're trying to all tackle at once. It's a lot, and I commend you all for doing it. Thank you.
We're just really thankful we don't have any legal issues.
I couldn't list them all.
We have been doing, just very quickly, a lot of what I think is decent capital improvement planning with fire department purchases. We're planning for that. We're trying to poke a little bit of money away for at least design and engineering finalized products for stone wall. We've been planning for a solar array purchase. We're getting close with that. We're planning for reevaluation reserve, so we can have a reevaluation without worrying about how much that's going to cost us. And so on and so forth. So we've got some healthy reserves. We've got some planning going on. Of course, Stone Wharf and possible new town office or fire department building, that's going to be a big undertaking, which hopefully we can all have something in place and go after money. But we have been doing a lot of planning and saving on our reserve accounts. I'll start with numbers. So on your list to talk about, I think, can you remind me of the list that you wanted to talk about? Sorry, I lost it.
Yeah, I don't have them necessarily in order, but I was looking at places where we both contribute to the same nonprofits, and how we've seen those change over the years. You want the bigger one for us, I guess, is Rec Center. It's been pretty steady at 8,000. I don't think that we've gotten into the level of detail that we all want to, but I think at some point there may be a discussion about looking at our use of the Rec Center and, whether we feel like we're using $8,000 worth of Rec Center time, I guess. We understand obviously the importance of that organization, that facility, everything. It's huge to the island. But that's one that I was wondering what the Board of Selectmen has seen over the years for an increase in contributions to the Rec Center or to the library, or I think that mostly covers it for us, but.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I can't remember where I heard this, but did we do a study of how many hours we use the Rec Center versus that charge at some point?
I asked, we were talking about it at the board meetings, and so I went back and I asked Penny, how many times have you used the Rec Center for gym class this year, for after-school program, for recess, rainy day recess? Less than a dozen.
And what I'd heard was if you did that at the hourly drop-in rate for the rec, it would be $8,000.
I don't think so.
Only would be $1,000.
Yeah, that's kind of what I heard. So.
Well, the fact is that, it's an organization that comes to either the town or the school for X amount of money, and if there's less from one, there may be more out of another, so I mean, that's kind of, I'm just trying to get a feel, I guess, for how this board, your board feels.
We do, however, use the rec as our go-to place in our fire drills.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, that's important. to keep our issues.
So we've had an interesting series of discussions with the rec center and Kids Place this year about budget, and it's been a bit of a moving target. We realized that we were looking at next year's budget, and that's the numbers that they brought. Each nonprofit brings whatever numbers they choose to bring to those conversations. When we asked them to bring prior 3 years' actual numbers, the picture was dramatically different. And to a large degree, that's because the budget is done with a minimum of fundraising assumed in the budget. And then whatever they wind up with for a final budget to fill out and balance to zero, they say, okay, now we have to fundraise this. And if they fundraise more than that, they make profit. Nonprofits can't make profit, but they have excess of revenues. And for the last couple of years, those excess revenues were pretty huge. And then there were a lot of ifs, ands, and buts about where money was flowing around and all that kind of thing. So in answer to your question, I would say that we've been looking pretty hard at how much money the rec gets and what other alternatives there might be for further integrating what in most communities is part of the town, which in this community isn't, for historical reasons. And what does that mean we should think about for the future? Is that accurate from some of the conversations we've had?
So in 2021, the contribution to the Spig Rec Center was 56,500. In 2022 and 23, that went up to $59,500 to the rec center. Separate of that is a payment from the town to the Kids Place for $20,000. This year they came and requested another 10,000, and we turned them down so far.
For the rec part of it.
For the rec part, my reason for turning them down was not enough information, and my preference would have been to direct some more money towards the Kids Place. That was just being honest with them. So right now, rec center gets 59,500. Kids Place is Kids Place part of the rec center? I can't remember.
Legally, yes.
Yes,
Legally. So
at the moment.
that entity is getting $79,500 from the taxpayers right now.
No, from the town.
Yeah.
They're also getting aid from
8,000
the taxpayers by way of the school.
Sorry,
Yeah.
left out your part.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry to.
Yeah, my personal preference, particularly for the rec center, since it is a big amount of money, would be to have that all rolled into one allocation on the town side. It doesn't seem, because like here you are doing the math, like how much are we using the building? Like, why not say, just put it all together in one lump sum, the taxpayer knows how much we're contributing to the rec. And that would be personally, for me, with the nonprofits, that would be my preference. So you right now pay, and part of that is a holdover from the SAD 51 days, because SAD 51 had a payment to the rec center. Frankly, it was a good faith, let's help you out as you're getting going payment kind of thing. And it was in a way a made up payment to help the community. And so I kind of feel like I just don't, it seems crazy to me to have it split out. And I would personally prefer to just show, we have a number of nonprofits that we contribute to. And I think on the town side, we should show the total amount for those nonprofits coming out of the town budget, and sort of, having these sub distributions coming out of the school budget seems, that's my opinion. So I'd be curious how the school feels about that. It's all coming out of the taxpayer. But
Yeah.
I think, yeah, and I agree with that in regards to the transparency of like exactly what you said. Like even here, if we hadn't mentioned the $8,000, it would have been assumed that 79 8,500 was what taxpayers are contributing. And when I'm looking at it as a voter, that's what I'm seeing the number as versus like, you know, if you're not going line by line and understanding, you know, it's as a package. I think that that's important.
And the other thing I think that we're a little bit guilty of on the town side is not following through on securing the memorandum of understanding with them.
Well, we have one that we haven't enforced.
Yeah.
So we have a memorandum of understanding on the Kids Place, and much more reporting is theoretically required
Yeah,
than has been.
so we haven't followed through on enforcement of that one or securing one for the actual rec center. Go ahead.
So to me, the difference between ours and theirs is a payment to utilize that facility. Ours is an actual contribution, not because we're not paying them to use their facility. I think if to me, it would be, go talk to the rec center. If you only use the place a dozen times a year, either you reduce that number to a reasonable number that could be, you know, when the school uses it one day, we pay $100. So the kids go play for whatever X amount of, and then that way you used it for, you know, if you used it 12 times, $1,200. That way you have a number that you can budget $8,000 and we're not even using the facility. At this point, it's turned into a contribution. So it's either we pay to use the facility or we put it under ours, on their contribution. So same thing with the library.
Well, the library provides a service. It's like a special for us. So there's an anticipated program that they're providing, whereas the rec center, we're not asking their staff to provide a program for the students. So if you looked at us having an additional specials teacher salary program, that's basically part of the library stipend. So it's
And how much
It's
was that,
different than-
4,000?
4,000.
So on the town side, if I could for a moment, right now, the Shabig Library has asked for the same amount for a number of years, for 25,000 from the town side, just so you know.
Every year.
See, I see the kids go to the library once a week or twice a week sometimes, at least once. So, and I know they do the programs and stuff.
Right, so
So,
that, yeah, they're
I-
providing something, the rec
Correct.
is providing a physical space that we're,
correct, but yeah, it's still, if you're not using the space. you're
right,
just
but I just see them
Paying
as,
them for nothing.
there's a difference.
The amount that we pay the library is similar to what we pay the art teacher that comes over and the, well, Penny's a gym teacher, but Penny's portion of the gym teacher salary and things like that.
Did you have something, Carol?
Well, and I guess that number of 8,000 predates us having our own independent school. So it isn't really based on any kind of level of use or service. And so that's why I would recommend we combine them all. I mean, we don't as a community want to start getting into like splitting hairs on like how many hours are we using this or that. I think the community supports the rec center. Clearly, we've made very large contributions to its operation. And particularly, you know, we've added contributions to Kids Place. So my thinking is rather than getting kind of, you know, I don't know what the word is, but I mean, I would suggest it's, to me, not a service in the same way as the library. And I would agree. And that's why I propose we just put it all in one budget and call it good. And then we can work with the rec center going forward about how we want to operate as a community.
And I would say like on that note, it's the contribution that is for like this facility to run for PE classes for the kids, for people to work out, for like, so I see it as like taxpayers were all contributing to this entity, because if they missed out on that, whatever fund, we probably wouldn't have a facility to go over for PE classes or people to use, you know, in the summer and for working out. So I think that's, or for programming. So I think that's kind of like the contribution versus like looking at the designated facility just for PE.
And just so you guys know, you may not, may already know this, the property that the rec center sits on is town property. So there is a reversion clause. If the rec center went out of business tomorrow, the town would definitely inherit it, just so you know.
Yeah, okay, well, it just says, you know, as we get into, I don't know, when, late summer, fall, early winter next year, maybe the school committee, select board and rec board can kind of sit down, a couple members of each and kind of hash this out. I think
Yeah.
something to keep on the radar anyway.
So other contributions that we make
I think that,
with the permission of the taxpayer is the community center that you're sitting in currently has been asking for $34,500. This year they asked for $4,000 more. We have granted that so far in our budget, so that's up to $38,500, which is the hall, and I believe it probably includes the little health
Yeah,
room out there, doesn't it?
no, that's under
They're
CB.
their own entity.
Is that the
The
council?
council's. in
Island
entity.
Council.
That's council, yeah.
is-
Sorry.
That's not the line.
We also direct $7,000 to the Shebig Council directly. This started when Ginny Ballard and others were so, Esther Knight and those people were on the council. So the $7,000 is supposed to be used in the Samaritan Fund and take place of our general assistance. We still have to put $500 in our general assistance by state law to keep it going. But people weren't coming to the town office for help. And this way it's utilized, and usually they give us a report. I haven't seen one this year, but usually they give us a quick summation of how it's been used.
thank you.
Sorry, I think we threw you off track with your,
Well, the first one on your list, Jeff, was, are there areas where CIS and BOS can combine forces to save on costs, barging, lawn care, et cetera?
Yeah, I guess on the, like on lawn care and shoveling and stuff like that, I mean, this school is a department of the town, and versus SAD 51, which is its own little, you know, its own outside thing, and same with the Yarmouth. It's not a municipal school district like Shebig's. So I honestly don't know. I don't pay enough attention to what the town does for like shoveling. It's the walkway to the town office or any other town properties or whatever. Didn't know if it's a small thing, but I didn't know if that's something we pay outside contractor to do shoveling. Same with lawn care. We pay an outside contractor to do the, sorry, did I say lawn care? Lawn care.
Yeah, mowing.
Yeah, you know, mow the lawn, mow the ball field. I don't know what the town does. It has mowing, if part of the town crew does mowing on any town property or not, at Chandler's or, you know, wherever. I don't know. But I don't know. It was just, and same with barging. Like, I honestly don't know enough about the barging to know if there's savings if you book the entire barge versus one truck on the barge. Now, I mean, it's just, yeah, just kind of throwing ideas out. If
Yeah, there was with
there's
the other
anything.
barge, the one that moved up to Penn Bay, they would go that way.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But,
So.
I wish they would.
The town does mow, and it mows the town properties that it has. As far as the plowing goes, basically, if they have, you know, depending on the storm, if they have time, they'll shovel the best that they can, the back to the town office, but there's no guarantee whether it gets done or not. And I think, you know, they try their best to make sure that the roads are clear, and sometimes it's shoveled, sometimes, you know, you could tell they had been through there, but so that's really the only, and then our harbor master shovels the floats. So,
Yeah, as far as the snow removal, I think it'd be a hard ask to ask the crew to shovel out the school. Because we need them to be the priorities on the roads. And then most of the time when the school is open the next day, they're sleeping. So-
Well
so-
observed.
so
Yeah.
it's just-
Would you have could you pull a quick figure out of your head about how much it's costing you for the mowing and the shoveling? Does somebody have to do snow blowing too, or just shoveling?
Used to be shoveling and snow blowing and then snow blow a path down to kids' place so that there could be a walkway between.
And to the rec.
And to the rec.
Would you know how much that would be costing you?
No, ballpark.
Wasn't it 1,500 we budgeted for shoveling? And
Yeah, we budgeted 15 for shoveling. For the lawn mowing, I think we have, is it, lawn mowing and tree removal and whatnot, we have about 7,500.
So is most of the mowing the field, the ball field?
Yeah.
And around the playground in the back.
And I'm sorry to ask this question, but I know that the ball field was fixed up and donated to the community. And at one point it was with the rec center and then it went back to the school. Is that correct? I'm not trying
This
to.
is like, this is the
Yeah.
big question.
The only reason I would ask that question is who's responsible for taking care of it?
We mow, they water.
Okay,
And we
So-
don't mow, I mean, a contractor mows. We pay for a contractor.
so
Yeah, we
just
pay
for the
for it.
ball field, it's probably what, $4,000 a year?
Yeah.
Roughly?
Yes.
Probably 5,000.
You know,
Yeah.
it's my opinion that the town of Quebec could look a little bit more outside the box of what their employees are able to do with snowstorms and maintenance of fields on this island. I think there's ample time, most of the time, for some other duties. And I have a different way of looking at it than some of you. I believe that people can be assigned duties, not asked if they feel like they're doing it to do it. They're assigned to do a duty, and then they're making sure that they're doing those duties. That's the way I look at things. That's the way my job is run. And I believe that's the way the taxpayers should. So I have a different way of looking at it, I guess. I believe that this discussion could probably continue at a later date.
Do you have equipment do you have like a big zero turn mower or something or no? I mean.
What are they mowing with?
John Deere.
So they have a John Deere that they mow with, and then, I mean, the last time that Chandler's got mowed, the John Deere wasn't functioning and he used the push mower. So there's such a limited, amount of space that they use that we don't really have. I mean, there's the John Deere that the cemetery has that they use that works great. So they maintain that one for the cemetery, but Ann does the mowing for the cemetery.
Go right ahead, Jen.
Superintendent.
So I just wanted to throw out there that, the way I see it is we're a small town and we don't have a lot of employees. And I think everybody is working really hard, to do the best they can for what we have. And it's not necessarily, something that they have extra time to do all these things. And I think we've talked about this over the years about, Tommy Calder used to take the trash and mow and, it changes over time what everybody's capable of doing. And I think we are asking a small amount of employees to do a lot anyway. And I think that it's just part of being a small town with not a big amount of people to do stuff that you then have to go out and look to other contractors. I'm sure Cumberland and those places, will have a big employment base, have people that also mow their fields and their sports fields and all that. And I don't see that as something that we should I'm sure we can talk about it, but I just don't think it would, it can happen. I know that probably 15 years ago, maybe, we sat down where there were members of the school, there were members of the rec center, and there were members of the town, and we all sat down and came up with a memorandum of understanding as to who was responsible for the ball field. And it never got finalized because no one could agree on it. And that's how it ended up. That was a long time ago, and no one, the rec didn't want to take responsibility for it, but they wanted to use it in the summertime. The school didn't want to keep paying for, Bump hated paying for all the maintenance that had to happen on the ball field. You know, it's a town-owned property, it's a town land with all those different things, but it's never been finalized. I don't know if a new group of people can come together and make that work, but in the end, we're all the same town, and we all have to, you know, make it work to make things look nice and take care of stuff. So there's not an easy answer. I think it gets talked about every budget season, and it should, but.
Thank you, Jen, for your
Well, kind of the same thing, but a little bit different approach. Things are gonna change over time, like we're seeing with fire and rescue right now. Fire and rescue here and throughout a lot of Maine has always been volunteer. Slowly, it's becoming more and more paid positions. The new public safety building will have places where per diems can sleep, because we can see down the road what's happening in other towns. That's changed over time. A lot of stuff that in the past here was done by volunteers. We're having a hard time finding volunteers to do. So I think we've got a list of things we got to get done, and we have a current list of resources that are on staff, and we have contract services that are available to us. I think we need to look at that logically, periodically, and say, should we outsource snow plowing? Should we outsource lawn care? Should we outsource some of these different functions? And what are the functions that remain with staff? And what's our success rate these days finding staff? As it becomes more expensive to live out here, it's gonna be harder and harder to find staff out here. We're seeing those pressures already. So I think we could look at it a little more scientifically and regularly and try to optimize what we have available to us. And in some ways, that's going to create some more jobs for other people that are already in some businesses, but it's not going to be an easy calculus, and it's made more difficult by the fact that you've got people that we all care about who are in positions, be they teachers or be they people who plow the roads or whatever. But things change over time, and we need to keep refreshing what our resources need and what we have available to take care of in terms of staff versus outsourcing.
Yeah, there are always pros and cons to subcontracting our employees, so thanks for bringing that up.
Yep.
Sorry if we opened up a can of old worms.
That's why we're here.
Go right ahead, Nan.
Well, it's along this same thing, but it's equipment, you know, like the school bus, we don't have extra drivers, so we don't use it for town things in the summer, and the same thing with the lawnmower. If you could do Chandler's with a push mower and get away with it. You wouldn't want to do the ball field on a regular basis with a push mower. So if something mandates additional equipment, you know, equipment is expensive to purchase and expensive to maintain. So not only personnel, but what's equipment that could be shared. I don't think the town owns a snow blower. No one shovels or snow blows in front of the fire station. They just plow close to the doors, and other people shovel it clear. So I think it's an inventory of the resources, equipment wise, what we have. It's like we do share the floor buffer, the cleaner. But to be a good meeting to focus on, not only services needed, but equipment.
Yeah, just
Availability.
purchasing something is only step one. If you think you're going to save money with it, and who's gonna use it, who's gonna maintain it, where is it going to be kept? Are people being careful with it? We're getting ready to purchase a good-sized tractor for mostly mowing and sweeping the sides of the roads, because we've been renting at an exorbitant rate for a number of years. So finally, we're pulling the trigger on a purchase. I'm just hoping that machine doesn't have too many issues once we get it over here, because it's gonna have a lot of moving parts.
And it's always a wait. When you look at any machine that's being used 2% or 3% of the available work hours, that's waste. That's a machine sitting there not getting used. So, we got a lot of snowplows in this town. We got less snow every year. We've got a lot of lawnmowers in this town, and a lot of people who are good at using them. And we have to just keep looking, reshuffling our deck and looking at our hands every couple of years, every year, and saying, are we doing this the best way we possibly could for the ultimate benefit of the taxpayers?
We're about ready to have what I think is our first discussion, or maybe not first, but one of the first discussions was Long Island coming up. They've requested to meet with us, and the topic is going to be, are there any places that we could combine or consider combining and sharing on? And, I expect that'll be an interesting conversation and a challenging goal. Because towns always look at, can we share fire departments, police departments, schools, whatever they're talking about sharing. And a lot of times it doesn't get that far, where it's not that feasible, but we're gonna try it. And barging is one of the topics. There are other ones. Barging is one of our bigger costs right now, especially in solid waste. Solid waste transfer station is doing an excellent job operating for the people, but holy cow, we're doing some barging off of there, and it's really expensive, and we're struggling trying to keep that cost from just getting away from us. It has gotten away from us this year, so those topics will be interesting.
The fourth item Jeff had on his list was provide CS with general understanding of the capital plan. We touched on it earlier.
Yeah, you guys kind of covered it. I don't know that you need to go into more.
Yeah.
We need to reinvigorate a plan as opposed to, here's our buckets of money. We need a plan that says, this is why we're accumulating.
And that was my reason for bringing up, considering asking the select board and the public, whether we want to move towards a appointed budget committee or not. I think that group, if it was formed, could really be tasked with making sure that that plan was put in place with help from the select board, and the public could really see what the plan was and how it tied into the comprehensive plan or not. Go ahead, Carol.
So on the capital, we have some language. So we have a bunch of categories. Some of them are not really well, they're sort of, some we may have to eliminate, some aren't really described very well. So we're thinking that at this time, we'll try to clean that up in terms of both the names, descriptions, and I think there's a couple maybe we'll eliminate. Is that right? I can't remember.
Yeah, there's one that's due to be eliminated that was voted in to do something else, so we have to take it accounts.
So we'll clean up, I mean, the capital accounts are on the warrant, and so we'll clean that up, and also the descriptions of the capital, that's probably more important, is what they are intended for. And do you guys have descriptions for your capital categories about, I mean, I know we do on the town side, but I'm thinking I've never really seen them on the school side.
I have not seen them.
And we probably should have them. So it would be, I would keep them pretty general. That way you don't have to change them again, but it would be worthwhile. We can send you what we have for the town, because at least for town meeting, we kind of want to get that nailed down. And so the school, so if you have a special ed fund, it should be, tuition, services, whatever, for special ed. I'm sure you could find them in another town and steal them. Yeah, you don't have to create them. But I think it's a requirement really of the capital expenditure to not just have the bucket, but also to have a description.
And that's something that I had on the list that I've been working with the town ones, but I've highlighted that the school ones didn't have the description, so I was gonna connect with Dan at some point to see, because in the last 4, 5, 6 years that we've looked back at every town warrant and what was, you know, voted on, there were no descriptions of anything for school reserve accounts.
Yeah,
So I couldn't find anything, so I was gonna.
I don't think it ever existed because I never remember seeing, but it's really to protect the taxpayer so that you specify what it can be spent on. And that way you don't have to go back to town meeting. So I think we're gonna try to clean them all up. We could include.
Anything else from anyone?
I just have a question. I know we share the expense of the bookkeeper, and I don't, this might be a better question for you, but I was just curious as to if you see that about 30% of this time, and that's what is allocated based on the numerical value, is really being put towards the school, or is it less, is it more? I'm just curious how much time the bookkeeper is actually spending on school-related items.
I think right now it's pretty accurate with the town warrants, with the main PERS, those kinds of things. I think that there is, from the bookkeeper perspective, very little that the bookkeeper isn't doing that's not school related. So I think it's a pretty accurate number. I think that you know, as we get more into a comfort level where we have a bookkeeper that is, you know, fully integrated and being able to do the job without assistance, then we would have a better idea. But a lot of the part that we're seeing that assistance is needed is on the reconciliation side, which is unrelated to what goes into the school.
And I'm sorry, what is the percentage supposed to be?
It's 60/40.
Thank you.
When was he hired? What was his start date?
I believe it's last April. But that's
Oh,
what.
And it goes July to June?
Correct.
Okay. So according to the last budget workshop that was handed out, with 75, we budgeted 30,000 for the bookkeeper. And as of yesterday, we've expended not even $12,000 for him.
But that's because not all the journal entries have been done.
Oh, okay.
So, and the 30,000 that was budgeted, and that was another thing that I have on as far as the email to you. It was from the notes that I have, it was budgeted for the health insurance and the salary. That was the 30,000 for all, but that would be the cost of all of it. And so you had, when you gave me the account numbers to where to, you know, distribute it to, you gave me 2 different account numbers for health insurance and for salary. But I think from what we have, they should be, you know, it's the combination of those costs to add to the 30,000. But that's something that I had on the list to talk to you about.
And we didn't put the increase in our projected salary for that next year. So that's something like we realized we have to know, because if you do a 5% increase, we have to add that because we have it. So that makes the same.
Go right ahead.
I've probably said it a million times, but philosophically, I really don't understand why we're splitting out those costs. And I think, you know, it's a municipal school department. The administration of the school, of the town, supports the financial management of that. And to me, splitting out these costs seems ridiculous. It's all the same for the taxpayer. So I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not suggesting we change it, but that's my personal opinion.
Mix it into one pot financially.
Yeah, I don't know why we are charging the school as though they're an SAD. They're part of the town. They are a municipal department. It's the same, you know, so that's my
personal opinion.
So the school's not required to budget for that, for transparency of auditing reasons or anything?
No, it's an agreement we made with, either the Board of Selectmen.
Well, and I think it's what it does is if the town, you would essentially have, two positions in that case, the town bookkeeper and then the school bookkeeper, if you don't, and I think that's how it was combined. At least that's historically from what I've understood. When that bookkeeper was hired full-time, it was, to cover both
Oh,
the school
random,
and the town
yeah.
department.
So
Yeah, I don't think we have to, as a municipal school department, I don't think we have to split them out.
So in the past, when like the town did the financial part for the school, like warrants and everything, was that ever reflected in our budget? Like, I know the bookkeeper was added because there was a lot of financial component,
It
right?
was reflected up until the year that I started doing the bookkeeping. Because we had a full-time, so Randall was a full-time bookkeeper before me, and he did that, and then Marjorie split the town and the school, and it was budgeted like that. When he left, and I was asked to step up to be full-time, I was doing the town clerk and the bookkeeping, and then Marjorie was doing the reconciliation, so it was really difficult to determine exactly. And so for a number of years, we went not doing that. And then when we got a full-time bookkeeper that was just doing that is when talking, with her that we decided to go back to how it was before.
Your question was, for reporting purposes, do we have to have a bookkeeper? No, we have a business manager, and our business manager uploads our financials to the state, and that's how.
Right.
So, he's only reflected in here, he's not reflected in our financials.
Anything else from anyone?
So can we take it out of our budget?
So we have to, the school side, we have to account for all of our people on the state website, like myself, everybody in the school. We don't put him in. He's not one of our employees.
Yeah, I don't really care myself as a current select person and taxpayer. Like Carol said, as long as somebody just says, oh, by the way, there's a bookkeeper that works in the town office and that individual is doing 60% probably roughly of town work and 40% roughly of schoolwork. So here's the cost. It's fine with me. Well, go ahead, Jen, sorry.
I just wanted to thank the school committee for giving us a really clear budget. And I want Ann to be able to make the 8 o'clock vote.
Yeah.
Thank you
I
all.
was watching the clock there.
Thank you all for
Thank you.
coming
Yeah,
down.
thank you.
Thank you. So
Thank you, Ann.
are we gonna work on, we're gonna talk about ours tonight a little bit, or there was discussion last meeting about us possibly looking at ours a little bit after our joint meeting. So I'm asking, that's all.
I don't think so.
I need to go back.
This is my opinion. I think we should, just, we've got this to look at. I think we may at the next meeting, decide on another meeting. We may separate that budget section.
Yeah,
The final
yeah,
one.
no,
I would, I would say based on what we're gonna learn on Thursday, on the dredging, the following Wednesday, we can discuss that. And if we deem that we need another one, we do it the Wednesday after.
I would suggest we have another meeting.
Can I just ask a question before everyone leaves? Is I adjusting the budget for the town, for the bookkeeper? Because I have to. Well, it will though, because the under full-time town, under administration, that salary is adjusted based on 60%. So
it's just gonna shift the cost from one place to another. It's not gonna increase the overall budget.
It'll increase the administrative, but it's just work on my end that I have to do that if I know ahead of time, it prevents more. That's
Won't we
why.
likely leave it where it is for now and revisit it?
Yeah. Are we not saying, because if we're not, I'm gonna go, I gotta go back and.
Sorry.
School committee member.
I don't care. I want to know.
Look at it.
Here, I just
So-
wanna know so I don't
We
take
can
off.
leave it.
So
with
my thoughts are, if we're still waiting for a big ticket number, which is the dredging, not knowing that number, we'll find out on Thursday. We can talk about this briefly on the next meeting. And if we deem that we do need a meeting, we'll do one probably the following Wednesday between that and our scheduled final approval before it goes to the
I think
lawyer.
that sounds reasonable, don't you, Vika?
I
I'll
think
do it
that
tomorrow.
sounds great. I think a separate meeting would be helpful. The one part that makes me nervous is if you're talking about, changing the COLA adjustment and then whatever the situation with the code enforcement officer position and then potentially this, that's math and work that I did at the very beginning of the year that was fairly time consuming, and creeping into this close is when I'm starting to work on a warrant. And so I just, the more I
We're not staying, right?
We're not.
know of that,
Thank you.
the easier it is for me to prepare. And if we wait to do that until that meeting, then that's gonna put a really heavy workload, that's gonna really creep into making it difficult for me to get the information in time to the lawyer. So
Would
it's
it be,
just-
would it be helpful for you if the following meeting, the board just discuss COLA? Once we get that cleared,
We can discuss
that would be
COLA
one of the
and
big
any
items that we have on our
salary
budget.
changes.
Don't look at
then
me.
that'll help.
You guys just need to make a decision.
No, I'm just asking for your opinion. That would be satisfactory as far as.
We're gonna talk with Army Corps on Thursday.
Guessing her.
We'll likely get some more bad news.
Yeah.
We're still gonna touch on the budget next Wednesday, even with the combined business meeting. We may get enough done at that meeting where we won't need much of a meeting after that. I don't know. Hopefully that some of the concerns you've just brought up will get solved.
That's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
So this is something.
I'll try to guide the conversation.
So we titled May 3rd, final budget for review and approval.
Yeah.
So if the prior Wednesday, we make final decisions, then we can look at it on May 3rd, stamp it, and you're still on schedule with the lawyer. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
We never want.
Yeah. 'cause-
She's just concerned that we're gonna keep stirring things.
Well, and we want them.
But if we make a decision on